KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
Yahoo!
Good morning, Chris. Yeah, well, it's not the same without Joe here. We
I
got
know
that.
he's got to get into it. I got to teach him the whole new shout out that we do in the mornings now. So.
And we won't have him next week either. So
I know. 3 weeks with no Joe Orsack, but as they say,
the show must go on.
That
Absolutely
is correct. And so we are here to make that happen. We have a great panel today. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is we always bring in experts to talk about their respective aspects in the field. We have Recy Dunn. We've got Michael Mengden. I hope I pronounced that correct here in a minute. And then we also have Rich Stone with Bernstein Realty. And then you and me, respectively speaking.
Oh, of course. And you know what I failed to do this month?
What?
Normally I give the Houston Association of Realtors
that is
update,
correct.
And I did not. But again, 33 straight months, increased sales.
Increased sales. I don't know where all these homes are going.
We don't have enough of them. And this is where we beg and plead for, please put your home on the market because we need listings out there. And so, but we sold 4,765 single-family homes. And it's still a 2.6 month supply as opposed to a 3.6.
2.6 month of supply.
Which is basically we're out of business. A healthy market is about 6 months.
Right.
That's a healthy market. It's neither a buyer nor seller's market. But when you get to 2.6, and we're going to be talking about this later on as we talk about investing and purchasing in Houston, Texas, what that looks like when you go to make an offer on a property today. So the average single price went up. The average home in Houston now is $247,000. And the median price, which means half sold above, half sold below,
right,
is $181,500.
Wow.
Now, if you go back just 2 years,
yeah,
the median price is about $155.
Right.
And the average price is about $224. So we're seeing about a clear 10-11% increase in values of homes.
Which is why FHA actually increased their minimum loan amount nowadays. So $295,550 versus last year $271,550. So you're looking at almost a $24,000 loan difference that they upped it. And why? Because of what's going on in Houston.
And we're going to ask our experts if this is a good time to put their homes on the market because they know.
That is correct.
They are, the street warriors and stuff, and that's why I always like to have the people that are active in the business on the show.
Well, I thoroughly agree. I can tell you just from a purpose of my side, we take right now more loan applicants in than what are able to actually find homes right now. I mean, we have loan applications sitting in our system ready to purchase a property, and they can't find what they want.
Maybe wonder where I'm going with this thing. It's a segue to our first guest, which is Mike Mengden. As even though in 2008 we had a 25% increase in rentals, and it has gone up exponentially since then, this last month, year over year, we have a 19% increase in rental. So what that means to us is that there's people out there who are investing and leasing out, and of course that requires often a management company.
That is correct.
Now, Mike Mengden is my go-to guy when it comes to management. Anytime I have a management question or a leasing question, it's Mike. Tell me about this. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great this morning. And Mike actually teaches a class on leasing. He teaches at Houston Association of Realtors, and I took the class, and I actually learned something. The Godfather actually learned something.
The Godfather learned something.
And so so tell me what you're seeing out there from your investors and
Actually, let us know who you're with first.
It's his company.
I think the name, though, is great. I think the name on there is Terra Residential Services. I love it because Terra, obviously in Latin, means land. So that is incredible.
Yeah, everything goes back to the land. But I'm the broker president of Terra Residential Services. We've been open since 1991, and we are strictly a residential single-family property management company and investment company. We buy and sell investments for our investor clients. We don't sell in the regular open market. So,
now how's that market looking right now?
Investors, not so much. The investors are kind of backed off because the prices in Houston are getting higher. And the inventory is just low. With the low supply, you're not seeing the numbers of investors that were really hitting a few years ago coming in and just buying up tons of properties, it's harder and harder to find that good deal. And, investor, they're always looking for a good deal. And so trying to find that good deal has been getting harder and harder.
Well, market is a good deal now, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Market price is a good deal because
next
year you're going to go, houses went up again another 10%, and I didn't buy last year. So it's always that way.
Oh, it's been that way. And we've got a lot of people coming in. We have what we call the reluctant landlords that came into the management business a few years ago when the market wasn't so good.
Right.
And they said, okay, now is not the time to sell. And so they started leasing their homes. Well, those homes are now coming off the leasing market because a lot of those guys have decided that the market is so good for sales that when it's time to renew the tenant, they've said, no, we're not going to renew this tenant. We're going to go ahead and put it back on the market for sale. So we're seeing our supply of available rentals even go lower, which is really tightening up the rental market. It's helping the sales market a little bit because you're getting more houses to buy, but the leasing market is really getting tight.
Mike, what have you seen rentals go up to, percentage-wise, from this year to or last year to this year?
Oh, we're raising rents 5 and 10% routinely. I mean,
Wow.
even normally when we're looking in MLS to run comps for a new listing, whatever the comps
And when
say,
he says
we're
comps,
taking
he means comparables.
Yeah, the comparables. We're looking for what other homes in the subdivision have listed for. We're looking at that, and we're in many cases we're saying, okay, here's what it comps out at, and we're throwing 10% on top of that, and we still get multiple offers in a few days.
Are you getting offers over the list asking prices?
Every once in a while, not as much in the market that I'm dealing with. I've talked to some other people that work in the real high end market inside the loop. Some of the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 rentals, which is typically not the typical rental market, but it's becoming that. Those sometimes are getting some above list.
And I see in that 4,000 or 5,000 usually that oil exec transferee comes in, and of
Lots
course
of
part of their
those.
package is
Yes.
we're not going to have you buy a house because we don't know how long you're going to stay here, so we want you to lease something. And they say, you know what? Well, I've got my family, I want a pool, and I want to be out in Katy or Woodlands.
Yeah, that is much more. Our typical rental used to be in the $1,100 to $1,200 rental range. That was our average rent before. Well, and now it's getting up to 14 and 15 because we're seeing so many of the high end homes that used to not be rentals now turning into rentals. So we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of expats leaving, and then other people coming into Houston. Houston's just growing by leaps and bounds. So
Chris, you're perkling with
really
a
good.
question over there.
Yeah, no, one of the things I was going to ask you, one of the things I've seen here personally over the past couple of years is the investor market sort of changed, where it used to be, as you mentioned, investors coming in from other cities, other states, other counties, other countries buying. What I'm seeing a lot more is individuals who know the local market, individuals who live and work and happen to know what's going on their street. And they're saying, you know what, I am interested in getting into Are you seeing a little bit of that from a management perspective?
We're seeing some of that. In fact, we signed a management agreement a month ago with a guy that bought the house next door to the house he lives in, which creates a whole different issue for the management company.
Yeah. Well, I talked to the owner, my neighbor.
Yeah. So it's one of those you kind of have to tread lightly. But yeah, we're seeing a lot more of local. 10 years ago it was all California people coming over here.
Right.
And now you're seeing a lot more people locally that are calling us saying, hey, I'm thinking about investing in real estate.
Talk about the accidental manager. And what I mean by accidental manager is that, an agent sold a client a home in 2007, 2008. They lost their job. They got transferred out. They didn't want to sell their home. And so they said, oh, could you watch this house for me? And I'm seeing a lot of that out there. Are you experiencing that
there's
as well?
a ton of it out there. And the agents are thinking, okay, it's management, so it's easy money. I can make a few bucks. I can take care of my listing. And then sooner or later, when that client wants to sell again, then I'm going to get the listing back. The problem we're seeing is that those guys haven't had the education or the experience, and a lot of them end up getting in trouble. Yeah, so it's a problem.
Yeah, we've had to have that conversation with our agents. We have about now we're about 500 agents now. We just acquired 2 new offices in another state, actually. But what we're seeing is that we're telling agents they can't do management because there's some rules and guidelines that they are not following. You have to be able to set up trust accounts. You have to be a broker to set up a company and things like that. So are you experiencing people out there who are floundering and you end up getting that client?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of companies doing exactly what you said. The broker has decided we're not going to have a bunch of little part-time managers running around doing this. It's not good for the company. And so they end up coming to us, and we take those clients and take care of them for the management, and then the agent gets the listing back.
I will tell you, under Texas Real Estate Commission, 75% of the claims for the recovery fund. And the recovery fund is what we pay in our license. So if the consumer does not collect from the broker who erred, they collect from the recovery fund, and we just about exhausted our recovery fund because of commingling of funds, management. It's about 75% of it's about leasing and management.
It's over 2/3 of the complaints are leasing and management, and when you take the real estate market as a whole, that is a huge number. And you're right. The recoveries are not $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000. I've seen $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 claims against the recovery fund for somebody just doing something wrong.
Well, you and I were in the winter meeting up in Austin for the Texas Association of Realtors. I remember that Avis Wukash, who's the chairman of the TREC commissioners, had said that they thought they were out of money, but they found $1 million somewhere, so they didn't have to come back to us further. But when you when you exhaust the recovery fund, we're talking substantial sums, and we're talking about billions of dollars that have to be collected and stuff like that. So
it's a huge amount, huge problem.
So I guess the question, we have listeners out there who probably have properties and they're attempting to manage them themselves. Tell me why they would call you to manage it for them.
Because we've got the systems in place to handle it. I tell people all the time, you can go out and manage 3 or 4 houses, and that is harder than a property manager taking care of 100, because we've got the systems in place. We know the rules, we know the laws, we know what it takes to get the vendor out there to fix something. We know what it takes to what the rules are in that aspect of it. How to find a good tenant, how to put the tenant in place, take care of them while they're there, and all that kind of stuff.
How to take a tenant out of the place.
How to take a tenant out of the place, yes.
Which is a really sticky wicket, and the laws changed again this year. Yep. I know that the small claims courts and have combined, and so things should be faster nowadays.
The law was written that they should be faster, but it takes the judges and the constables a little while to get used to it. So unfortunately, at the moment, in many cases, it's taking a couple of weeks longer than it used to. But it'll iron out after a while.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, and what I find with people who are managing properties themselves, they build a relationship with their tenant, which is all well and good. But when it comes time for renewal, they just let it renew, or they just let it go month to month, and they don't raise the rents. And here they're missing an opportunity, because you're looking at the market and you're going, this needs to go up 10%. You need to tell your tenant it's coming up. And they don't do it.
No, one of the biggest things a property manager can do is take the emotion out of it, because it's a business. We run it like a business. We tell them, okay, here's what the renewal rate needs to be. Here's what you need to do. And some tenants are just like your kids. When they talk to the owner, if they don't get the right answer from mommy, they'll go to daddy. And the property manager takes that out of the loop, so that helps. So from the investor standpoint, a lot of times it's better to have the investor do that type of stuff, the hire a management company, because we can take care of those issues.
It takes all the electricity out of the conversation, for sure.
Yeah, and I would say that was pretty interesting, as you mentioned right there, because a lot of times people, what I'm seeing in today's market, it's like anything. News drives people's desires to either buy or sell, or what their activities are, right?
Right.
And so one of the things, you're hearing a lot of news out there, inventory is extremely low, it's a seller's market, et cetera, and they get in this mind, you know what, then I can charge XYZ, or I can do this. And it gets very emotional when they don't get what they want.
Right.
And so, by using a company like yourself in regards to the management side of things, it takes that emotion out of it. I mean, it really looks at it from a business perspective. And I think sometimes individuals forget to look at it. Ultimately, it's a business. It's about cash flow. It's about profitability. It's about making money off an investment that you made.
Right, it is, and that's the big key. They have to take the emotion out of it. So that's where they get in the most trouble. We get so many calls from people that say, "I'd like you to manage my property." Okay, well, why did you call me? Well, I got a problem. and that's when we get the phone call. So we do a whole lot of problem solving.
They don't really have a house for you to manage. They really have a problem to hand off to you, is what they're telling you, right? And a house happens to go with it.
Yes, we get a lot of those calls. So.
Mike, tell us how we can get a hold of you.
The best way to get a hold of me is through my website. It's www.terraresidential.com.
And you don't take private phone calls, huh?
Oh, I take private phone calls. You can call my office, but it's easier to get through. Find me on my website.
That is terraresidential.com.
Yes.
You're going to be back to speak in our last segment that we have, but in the meantime, right now, we are coming up against a break. All those listening, remember, you can reach us for a live phone call, 800-808-5548. Call in, ask us any question you have. All these great individuals are here, but we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
I've got a song that I sing. I can make.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back live in studio. You know, that was a great first segment. We talked about, obviously, managing real estate investment in the city of Houston, or actually anywhere. It's important to get that market down, important to find somebody really good like Mike that you can work with to be able to get that done. But, you know, we're going to transition now into continuing to buy real estate in Houston.
Yeah, and, you know, and Laura Kroon with Capital Title,
yes,
we reached out to Laura and said, look, who do you have that would be a great guest?
Who do you really want on the show?
Yeah,
Who would be
really
a great guest, a great individual.
And Recy's over here laughing, but that's true. We did. We did reach out, and they said, no, Recy Dunn. Welcome to the show, Recy.
Thank you very much.
Now, tell us, which area of town are you working?
I'm with the Keller Williams Realty Professional in the Spring Cypress area, Spring Tomball area.
Okay.
And we've been in the real estate business for a combined about 9 years.
About 9 years. And you work on a team, you and your wife, correct?
Work on a team called the Homes Done Right team. In fact, my wife been in real estate for a lot longer than I, and she's been trying to get me into the real estate business, and I've been in sales for about 20 years. And so finally she twisted my arm, and about 2 years ago I joined her, and I decided that we needed to brand ourselves. And since obviously my last name is Dunn and hers, we call ourselves the Homes Done Right team.
Well, have you forgiven her have you forgiven her for getting you in the business?
Well, you know, just like most husband and wife when they first get together, we had to learn our roles.
Right.
And so that we could work together.
So you obviously became submissive very easily.
That's true.
I learned a magic word. It's called yes, dear.
Yeah, that's true. I said, okay, honey, which way you want it done?
That's right. Done. And that was all pun intended.
You know, I love the last name is great. That you can, hey, guess what? Done deal.
Done
I
deal.
mean, it's absolutely perfect.
That is true. That is true.
Well, let's talk about the spring market. What are you seeing out in the spring area?
Well, in the spring market is, especially in the last year and a half, it's been really booming, and especially because we've been getting multiple offers on properties, wherein before, less than a couple of years ago, you know, the house would just sit on the market, and now if you can't sell it within 30 days or sooner, the market has really expanded, not just in the Spring area or the Cypress area, but we're seeing that all over Houston because we just don't concentrate just in the Spring area. We had a client had 3 horses, and she was looking for a piece of property where she could have her horses as well as her home. So we went all the way to Pearland, and we found the property.
Oh, wow.
Her. And just recently, we had a client, a doctor from Dallas, and wanted at least a half acre. Their price point was $500,000. We had a very difficult time finding a half acre piece of property at the price point of $500,000. Now, a couple of years ago, we could have found that in Bender's Landing. We could have found that in several properties off of 2920, but the market has really changed, especially with Exxon moving in.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a good point right there. Obviously, ExxonMobil is building a big, brand new campus off.
And
of
they're
45.
talking about it being in Woodlands, but it's not. It's really in Spring.
That is correct. It's right before the
true.
Woodlands. But what's happening is you know, when you're building 12 office buildings and you're bringing in, I don't know, 25,000, plus employees.
But
or
some of them already live in Houston.
That is correct.
A lot of them do.
You know, you have to expand. You know, that market really gets expanded out, right? So it goes all the way into Champions. It goes all the way over to Kingwood. It goes all the way up to Conroe. It goes all the way down, to the lower area of Spring right there. So it really becomes a very wide cast net. And that's just one company, and that's just one aspect of the real estate side.
And you may correct me, Recy, on this, is that even though somebody might be working out there in that Exxon campus, I do see a certain segment, and it's usually the younger group. They don't want to live out in the burbs. They want to live close in. And we had this conversation last week that they want things they can walk to and things like that. So you're really getting people who are going to be working out in that area, but you know what? They're going to get a hold of you and they go, Recy, I want to come in to close in. Have you experienced that yet?
Oh yes, we have experienced that quite a bit, especially. Just to give you a good point, my son recently got transferred a position here in Houston, and he lived in New York, and he wanted to move in the inner loop of Houston, and we've been looking for properties and trying to find him a home within the city limits of Houston. First he said Heights, and I said Ben. His name is Ben also, or really his name is Recy, but we call him Ben. I said, Ben, what's your price point? He said, $300,000. I said,
it'd be tough.
I said, not in the Heights.
Yeah.
I said, maybe I can buy you a lot.
Yeah.
Buy you a lot.
You know what? A lot that'd be about right if you could find a lot.
If you can find a lot. But getting back on what Mike was, especially since he's in the property business, we occasionally get clients that will call in through Keller Williams, what we call property room, and you take turns basically working the property desk. And we will get clients looking to lease homes. And when we ask them what their price point, it could go all the way up. I had a client go all the way up to $2,000. And I said, why do you want to lease a home and pay $2,000? And they said, well, I can't afford it. And I said, well, you can afford to pay $2,000 a month. You can afford to buy a house. And basically what happens is some of them are credit challenged, but we hook them up with a credit repair company or a mortgage company, and about 6-7 months later, we convert them into a home. So I love people who want to lease homes.
And of course, I think a lot of people who get transferred in aren't sure where they want to live. They hear things and they talk to different people and they say, well, you need to be here. And so they're not sure. And the other thing is the down payment. A lot of people haven't gotten to the point, or maybe they have. I've seen this happen a lot when they're transferring in, but they have a house in another state whose market is not as brisk as ours, and it hasn't sold.
Well, that is true, but also we have there is some down payment assistance programs out there that depend upon how much the client actually makes, that they can get assistance from various different grants that is available to help them with the down payment.
And you did one for Danny Frank, our past chairman for HAR.
Right.
I actually attended that closing. That was the first time I realized that you didn't have to be in a specific area. That it was, if my memory serves, it was $202,000 for the I think the loan amount was
right,
and you had a down payment assistance on that thing of $10,000.
That's right.
That is correct.
And I believe she was a school teacher.
That is correct.
But it wasn't restricted to an area because she was buying out in the Kingwood area or Tascasita maybe.
That's right. About a year ago, we had a client that got as much as $19,000 in down payment assistance.
I think that's a wonderful thing to do because homeowners make good citizens. Period.
Oh, I would agree. It's amazing because one of the things that we talk about all the time is there is money available out there. However, the one thing that most people, and they do a really good job, I'd say we have a lot of individuals who do this, is the bond programs are great, but they're a little bit more expensive programs. I mean, interest rate-wise, they're a little bit more expensive, takes a little bit more time. And in today's instant gratification market, people do not want to wait. I mean, a lot of times they sit there and go, I don't want to have to go through a program in which I have to qualify. Or, even USDA, for example, they don't want to have to go through a dual underwriting system. So I'm seeing people converting a lot of times. And so, I think when you have such a hot market, we'll end up seeing that the market, that the bond programs become less important. When we have a market that is more open, I guess, with a greater inventory, we see those come back in a lot stronger.
Yeah. Now, Recy, of course, we were talking about leasing management with Mike. Have you worked with investors to look for?
Oh, yes. In fact, we have a couple of properties that we are representing, and one of the things, we had one lady, a client that's in New York, who purchased a piece of property in the Old Oak subdivision. And for various different reasons, she fell on hard times. And the house next door sold for $260,000 about 6 months ago. She owes $160 on that piece of property, but it needs some work. It needs about maybe $20,000 worth of work. We have received investments making bids on it as low as $98,000.
Oh my!
I mean, it's like they're trying to steal it. But that's the role of an investor. They want to get a good deal. But if you look at that neighborhood, the average home in that neighborhood is $250 on up. So you put $20,000, maybe $30,000 into fixing the house up.
I'm thinking I'll offer $98,000.
Right.
You take that?
But we lucky we held out, and we finally got an investor who saw the return and actually offered what the lady owes.
Oh, well, that's still a great bargain, though. If she owes $160 and it's a $250,000 neighborhood, I think you probably get investors to do that deal all day long.
All day long.
Especially if they're willing to do the rehab, and that's probably the big thing with investors. I don't know, and Mike, you might be able to comment on that. When you get investors, are they willing to come in and do rehab on the properties, or
always, because they figure they can get a better deal. Yeah.
That is true.
So I think,
and there's also financing associated with it. Most people don't realize there's a lot. We get back to individuals. There's a lot of individuals who want to buy in their respective markets, and they can actually get financing, rehab loans, in which they can actually purchase the property. They can get a rehab loan through Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, one of the Home Styles or Home Steps, rehab products, and then they can actually go out there and make these improvements.
No, that could be for owner-occupied, though, correct?
Owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied. That is correct.
Well,
it is available for both, right? They do have an investment program as well.
That's true, because one of them is occupied and the other one is unoccupied.
That is correct.
So
main thing is down payment difference, 3% versus 10. It's the only thing. But be able to get an investment property at a 10% down payment, pretty interesting.
But most of the investors are making cash offers in that situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're a true investor, like I said, the investors that are coming in buying those properties, a lot of times they're doing those in cash.
Well, Recy Dunn, we are kind of getting close to another break, believe it or not. We got to pay for the show somehow. We have to have those sponsors, and we love our sponsors.
Yes,
how do
we
people
do.
Tell us the name of your company again. Tell your name, the name of your company, and how we get a hold of you.
First of all, our broker is Keller Williams Realty Professionals, and the name of our team is called the Homes Done Right Team, because we do get it done right. And you can reach me at 832-541-7466.
And I think you should give a shout out to your wife, by the way.
Andrea, if you're listening, give me a call.
I don't think I think she is listening. That is Homes Done Right. Recy Dunn, who'll be back in for our last segment. But in the meantime...
Or next to the last segment.
Our last segment, he will come back in and speak to everybody. That is correct. But in the meantime, we have to take a break right now, or Mike, our producer, is going to start giving me the bad eye over there. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Implacable heart such as mine.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back. Man, time flies when you're having fun, let me tell you. It really does. And you were at an event the other day. You were at an event for Lee, one of our sponsors here on the show.
For OneGuard, yes.
And you ran into a wonderful lady who I thoroughly enjoy, and her name is Amy Bernstein. And Amy, unfortunately, we've been telling her, hey, you got to get on the show. And she said, but you know what? I've got my number one producer in 2013. I think you know him. Just a little bit of production volume.
Rich Stone sounds like a movie star name.
That is correct.
Stone.
He is the star of Bernstein Realty, though. Rich, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You guys are way too flattering.
We thought so too. But we want to make you look good.
Flatter me up. It's good to be here. I really appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Well, talk about how you got in the business, how long you've been in the business, and the areas that you work in.
Yeah. One mistake after the other. I'm a New Yorker, and came down to Houston about 10 years ago to start a little custom home building company with my brother, and things went great. Things have changed since then, somewhat thanks to the 07, 08 market. I should say 08, 09, I guess. But
did something go on during that time frame?
There was. It was a long time ago. I can't remember now. But so my brother still builds beautiful custom homes. I help him sell them, and I got my license about 4 years ago. So I've been a full-time agent for 4 years with Amy Bernstein. Amy listed a lot of our homes when we were building custom homes, and so I talked to her 4 years ago. She said, "Come on, bring your license on over here," and it's been great. She's great to work with. It's a great little
Let's
company.
put a plug in for your brother while we're talking about him. And tell me the name of the company in which he works.
It's my brother's name is Jeff Stone, and the company he works, the name of the company he works under is North Stone Builders, and works mostly in the Memorial area, building custom homes. And he's fantastic. He's a great builder, great to work with.
North Stone Custom Homes. I like that.
So he's building in the Memorial Villages, or
yeah, okay. And really, so when I say Memorial, really largely Memorial Villages, but let's go Memorial at large, which is really everything from 610 West out to Kirkwood.
Well, like the Heights, it's getting tougher and tougher to find lots in Memorial. I mean, it's just there's a feeding frenzy when it comes on the market. I know that
it's a tight market.
It's a very tight market.
Yeah.
So
it's very competitive.
And how have you seen everything? Obviously, you've got your office located right there in the Memorial Villages. You work a lot of the areas all over Houston, basically. But what are you seeing in general right now? What is going on specific to the higher end market?
Yeah, Chris, the multiple offer situations are very common.
Right.
It's the what do we see year over year? The number of home sales in the 500,000 and up range rose across the city. Rose by about 40%, I think is the number. And in that area, that's where a lot of those homes are.
Right.
That's the price range for a lot of those homes. And so it's very tight. Multiple offer situations are the norm. What you do see every now and then is homes that are sitting a little bit longer than you'd expect because they've been priced high. Some homeowners, and I can't blame them for it, but they have read all the headlines and they're trying to take a little more off the table maybe than there actually is, and so they'll price them a little more aggressively than they should, and those will sit until the price adjusts for the market. So the market's very strong, but it's still possible to overprice if you're not careful.
So it still comes down to, we tell everybody is
price it right.
Price it right from the very beginning.
And hire an expert.
Location will sell itself. What was that?
Hire an expert.
And hire an expert. That is correct. I mean, absolutely.
And listen to him.
And listen to him. And Rich is one of those experts. I mean, very good individual. I've obviously known him for a little while here. Just really, really, we worked on some funny opportunities together,
yes, we did.
Which we can't talk about on radio, unfortunately. But
it will be in the books.
Yeah, but it will be in the book later on. Right? Yeah. But it's very interesting, and as you mentioned right there, at the end of the day, multiple offers is something that we're seeing a lot. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is, I was getting to a question actually, is how do you handle multiple offers? I mean, what is a good way? Because when I left this morning, I said, "Sweetie, what is the one thing you like to?"
Well, I hope you're talking to your wife.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope so as well. But she said, "Hey, ask one of your guests about what's the best way to handle multiple offers because of everything that we're hearing out there."
Yeah, it's multiple. It can be a challenge, and when we say multiple offers, every now and then you'll see 2 or 3, but it's not uncommon to see 5, 6, 7, even 10 plus at times. And it's very important. In my opinion, to be fair to everybody. It's each of those buyers is putting their dreams and their hopes and their pocketbook on the line, and each of those agents that represent those buyers, their career is on the line too. And so you want to be very, very fair to everybody. Of course, your main concern is your seller, and to the extent that you're fair with everyone and disclose the appropriate amount of information
that your seller allows you to disclose.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Then it is a lot of work because those multiple offers are not coming in. They're not stragglers, right? They're coming in within 24 to 48 hours of putting the home on the market. So it's get out the spreadsheet, itemize every piece of every input from the offer, go through the contract, and itemize every line item, and stack each offer up compare each offer against the other, and then present the spreadsheet to your client and let them see where they're coming.
And as far as trading, I told you I wrote a book. Listen to me. I wrote a class on multiple offers that I taught for the first time at HAR on Thursday. And the thing is, it's not always the highest price that's the best offer, because some people will put a price on there that's just outrageous because it's a weaker deal. They're not putting down as much. Their credit may not be. It may be maybe a 680 credit score instead of a 720 or a 780. So there's a lot of moving pieces on an offer that make it the best offer. And of course, at the ultimate end, it is the client's decision as to what they do. But they've got to be an informed client as to what that looks like. And I was teaching a class the prior week, and we were talking about a multiple offer situation, and the agent I was talking to did not get the deal. Went to somebody else. It was in-house, and it broke out like a few days later. So they were putting their wants and needs over the needs of their client, which was to get the best offer, not necessarily the price.
Rob, that's a great point. It's the best offer is not always the highest price. In fact, often it's not the highest price. And we do see a lot of terminations or bust outs because buyers know that the house is going to go quickly. They rush in, make a high-priced offer, and a couple days later, they either get cold feet or just realize that they moved a little too fast.
Well, Rich, I'm also seeing that as a strategy. They're going out, and I don't blame buyers for doing this, but what they're doing is they're going out and putting out 4 or 5 offers. They have no intention of buying 4 or 5 houses. Their intent is, let's see what sticks. Mm-hmm. And it may cost them some option money on the other houses, but they're going to go see which ones they can get. So if they get 2 or 3 of them, they'll just take the option on the other ones they may have gotten and buy the one they really wanted. Yeah. Type of thing. So it's getting to be a strategy out there now. So that's why I like balanced markets. It really is you're working 10 times. If you have a listing, you're working 10 times harder than you did previously.
That's right. That's right. It is a challenge for all the parties involved. Yeah.
And you mentioned obviously not always the highest and best. What are things if you are involved in a multiple offer situation, and you are a buyer? What are some things that you could do that would have you stand out as your offer being a better offer?
Yeah, this will sound almost maybe cliche to some, but if you can personalize the deal to the extent that you can personalize the deal,
write a letter.
It really makes a difference. Yeah,
write a letter.
I mean, homeowners are people; they got feelings, and they. If they've been in their home for a while, they want someone who's going to take care of it and raise their kids and get involved in the community.
Here's one I got out of class because we talked about strategies and how to make your offer look better than someone else's. Is they actually had someone who went out, they were showing the house to this family, took a picture of the family out in front of the house and attached that picture along with the offer.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it personalized it.
Yeah.
This is what the family is, and then they wrote a little letter saying how much they love the home and that they want to raise their family there. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Make it personal.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to say that because obviously he's really good at what he does.
Yes.
But that was one of the things that was brought up to me a couple years ago even, and it's still true today, is personalize the relationship. That's the reason why I always tell everybody is face-to-face is always the best, from a lending perspective. Personalizing the relationship from a real estate perspective is the best. Being able to entice the seller, the reason why you're going to take care of that home better. And we're seeing a lot more of that, especially in trying to stand out in a crowd on a multiple offer situation. It's important. I mean, there are little things you can do. And again, that has nothing to do with price. That has 100% to do with establishing a relationship.
That's right. That's exactly.
And what other means by which you might distinguish your offer from a buyer's agent standpoint?
Yeah. The contract has a number of contingencies in it. The TREC, Texas Real Estate contract, does. So to the extent that you can tighten up the contingencies, everything from financing contingency to option period to the appraisal contingency, or we'd call it the property approval contingency. To the extent that you can tighten up your contingencies, it's very important for a seller.
Yeah, of course, there's more risk from the buyer standpoint if you take some of those contingencies out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. it creates a challenge. It's a challenging environment for both sides.
And Chris, from a lender standpoint, I was talking in the class the other day, and I said, you know what, don't just go get that pre-approval letter. Go ahead and get through the entire process. Get the verification of employment, verification of deposits, get it all finished, and then have your loan officer call the listing agent. I know that's more work for you, Chris, but you know what?
I've been preaching it for years. I've been preaching the fact is what you need to do is a pre-approval is outdated. Pre-qualification, is outdated. What you need to do is get an approval on a loan.
Full approval.
So, the one thing that I have been very good at here recently, and I say recently, is educating a lot of our clients is, guess what? When you send me back in your loan application, don't do it just on a piece of paper. I need to get tax returns and W-2s and paychecks and proof of funds to close. All these things that I can run through our systems or even walk down to my underwriter to get a fully approved loan to make sure that when you're making that offer, it's something that's really good. Now, don't get me wrong. Things can always come up, right? Always have to preface it. But if you do the right thing at the very beginning, you're always going to get the right result.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Rich, we are coming up against a break again. Can you believe it?
No, hard to believe.
How can we reach you if you don't mind?
Feel free to call me, 713-545-6324. Email rstone@bernsteinrealty.com. Website, bernsteinrealty.com.
Bernsteinrealty.com. You're a great individual, great company. We're not letting you go anywhere yet, though. We still have one more segment
to go. Our last segment.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And Tirsa Smith, I know you're listening to us right now. Thank you very much. We appreciate you tuning in for us today. Anyways, we're coming up against a break right now. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show. I gave a big shout out to Tirsa, and she actually wrote back to me immediately and said, you know what? Great show, and more importantly is the information about multiple offers was really good. I just had a listing with 5 offers. So being able to see what other people are doing in regards to accepting multiple offers and how they could possibly go through that was incredible information. And I always like to point that out because that's what this show is about. It's about delivering value and information that one of the things, we all can derive something from somebody at one point.
And have fun.
And have fun at the same time. That is correct. Laugh about the whole thing.
Which is why we only bring on experts.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
So we're in our last segment here. So it's kind of an open mic, and what we're talking about really is the real estate market. And, of course, we hadn't gotten a whole lot about investors, so I'd love to hear some feedback because people who are working with investors, if they're getting to the point where they're frustrated, if they're able to find any product out there, and if they are finding product, what are they finding? So anyone who would like to kind of field that question, don't everybody jump up at one time.
How about you, Rich? What are you seeing out there?
I recently had a listing where we did over 15 offers, and a couple of them, the highest priced offers, were noticeably from investors, actually, and international investors. And the name of the buyer gave it away. I mean, it's
Right.
obvious who it was. And my client did not. They turned down the highest priced offers. And now I can't remember the original question. I'm off on a tangent.
Okay, let's revisit that for a minute. Just, we were originally talking about with Mike. We're talking about investors and coming in. They're leasing properties. They're buying properties to either hang on to and sell in the future. When they're coming in and buying now, what are their habits? What are they seeing? Are they being able to get product? And what does that product look like?
Well, as a listing agent, you're savvy to it now. To the high-priced offer coming in quick and hard, all cash, and knowing that there's, very little emotional attachment there, very little commitment, that there are contingencies in there that could rear their head during after signing the contract. So you're very savvy to it now. It's kind of the game. I think maybe not as new as it was 6 months ago.
And and you mentioned that one segment before. You got 15 offers. A lot of them were foreign buyers, for example, that came in. One of the things that we're seeing is, you mentioned, a lot of times your foreign buyers, whether we want to have them and we have people buy real estate, there's no emotional attachment to it. So sometimes their goal, like anything that was said before, they're going out there and making 10 offers on the same property, right?
Yeah.
They're just putting the highest and best out there. What the goal is, if I get one or two of them, I can always back out of these other ones if it's not accepted. And that's why you end up having some of these bust outs that are very prevalent out there. Yeah. People saying, you know what, I had a deal and then it got busted out because of that.
Another reason that you hire an expert, so you can go through and be able to surmise, is this a good bona fide offer, or are they just, shotgunning offers to see if that. And, we talked about this before the show this morning, is that there are companies out there that are such and such LLC, and they're putting in offers. It'll say and or assigns, and they'll put as long an option period as is feasible. Are you seeing any of that out there? Anybody here seen that come through?
I haven't seen any of that. We used to do it a lot, but I haven't seen any lately.
No, I haven't seen any either.
Well, again, when you're teaching, this is why I love to teach, is that I get to hear what's going out there on the streets, is that we're hearing this and seeing this, and some of them were asking for like 30-day options, and that should be a red flag for anybody. If you see such and such LLC and or assigns, which means they want to assign that contract, because they really aren't the ones that are buying it. They're going to find somebody else to buy it. And we're seeing it usually come from, a lot of it comes out of California and things like that. They're just investment groups. They don't have anybody yet, but they can see if they can tie up a property at a good price.
Right.
And then they're going to go find a buyer for it.
Right.
They have. So that and I'm sure anyone here would see that and recognize, oh, that's a red flag. But if you were just a consumer, had your house on the market for sale by owner, you might say, this is cool.
Right.
I'm going to get a lot of money for this house, and it may not be a transaction that will be come to fruition.
And the other thing that I'm seeing a lot, and I don't know if y'all see this, and maybe Rich and Recy, you can comment to this, but I see nowadays that we get loan applications in, very qualified buyers. So we're getting these loan applications in, and then they end up calling back, or I end up following up with them, 2 weeks, day, 5 days, 1 month after the process, and they're sitting on the fence at this point. Why? Because they went out there, they made one or two offers, couldn't get anything, and all of a sudden, guess what they're going to do? We're going to stay out now for the next 6 months. We're just not going to engage in the market. And I've been seeing a little bit more of that, and the one thing that's concerning is because people are so frustrated on either having to deal with multiple offer situations or not winning on the deals they're trying to do, they're simply staying out of the market again. And we talked about this once. We had a lot of money on the sidelines at one point prior to this boom. And we're starting to see a little bit of people, very highly qualified individuals, that are now going back to the sidelines after they're pre-approved and ready to go because they're frustrated in that process. Are you seeing some people out there, Rich and Recy, that have engaged and then are becoming maybe a little disengaged because of what's going on?
Yeah, there's certainly, and Recy, I'll be brief here and let you jump in, but there's certainly that potential. And as an agent, I think one of my responsibilities is to provide the coaching and help set expectations, let them know that that's certainly a possibility. And if they're aware that that's a possibility of kind of buyer fatigues or search fatigue, so to speak,
right,
then they're a little more patient. So I try and let them know up front that potential exists, so we approach it a little more patiently.
I like that. How about you, Recy?
Well, from my perspective, it's mostly on the buyer side, because the buyer has a certain price that they want to try to find a home, and in today's market, their expectations is not where it should be, because they have an idea that they want a 4-bedroom home with a pool, and they want it in a nice subdivision, but yet they only want to pay $160 for it. And so you have to educate them that what their expectations are and what they really want to pay are not the same. And so you try to. I have a client right now want a pool, but she only got a pre-approval for $155, and she wants to be in the Missouri City, Stafford area, and it's just not going to happen. So I finally put it to her, look, you got to drop the pool, because and maybe we might get lucky and find something, but you just have to educate your client.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that you be experts in the market, know what the market is, know what the inventory is, and Mike, I know you have the same thing with your investors when they come to you and say, we want to buy something, and you got to give them that speech. It's like, well, inventory is low.
Yeah, no, they come in and they want to lowball a bunch of stuff, and we're saying you're not going to get it. It's just right now the market's not that way. And we're seeing a lot of these multiple offer buyers, they end up coming into the leasing side because they cannot find something. So we end up getting some of those, and they say, well, we got all these pre-approval letters and all this stuff, and say, well, are you easy to put in a lease house for a year?
and that's if you have one.
Yeah, if we have one. Yeah. That's the problem, because we're seeing the multiple offers too. We'll put a listing out there, and we'll get 10 offers over the weekend. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
The market is just nuts.
And and I think one thing that most people have to realize is the Houston market is a bit of an anomaly. When I say a bit of an anomaly, if you look at the national numbers in other areas, while real estate in general has definitely moved up, it's definitely a different market than it was in 2009, 2010, whenever after the bust and all that kind of stuff. But Houston stands atop of the real estate market. And so a lot of times also we have we're a very transient city. We have a lot of people coming in, not only internationally, but from within from within the United States. And so a lot of people, though, are coming from respective markets, from Ohio or Pennsylvania or someplace in the Midwest, in which they're not experiencing what we're experiencing here. So they're struggling to get through that a little bit. Rich, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to go back to prior topic, but
go for it.
No rules.
Throw this out to Mike. Mike, you're a wealth of information here about the leasing market. Wondering if you're seeing all these apartments that are going up, if you're seeing those affect your leasing market at all. I see cranes.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. There's a whole bunch of them under contract, and we always talk about it when we get to the your 7-year cycle in real estate. And leasing is usually high when sales is low, and otherwise, and right now they're both perfect. And so they're saying, how long is it going to take? How long is the leasing market going to stay high? And we say until the apartment industry overbuilds.
and they haven't overbuilt
and
yet.
They haven't overbuilt. They're not even close. Yeah. So Houston's growing so fast, the supply is going down every month. So I don't see it turning anytime soon. And you were talking earlier about your foreign investors coming in, and that's a key to what you were saying earlier, is that we're seeing the investors coming in, and we're talking about how tight the market is and how much the prices are getting high, but relative to the rest of the country and to international, Houston is cheap. So these investors are coming in and they're going, you can buy this for that, and they can't understand how it's so much cheaper to buy a house here and you get the cash flow, whereas other places you buy these houses and you're negative cash flow, and here you buy them and you're positive cash flow instantly.
Yeah,
right.
Which never makes any sense to me.
And it's a big difference. I speak to a lot of investors who say, there's two ways to invest. You invest for cash flow, or you invest for equity. A lot of other cities, they're investing in equity. Right? Here, they can do both, actually. They can invest for equity and cash flow.
And we didn't fall as much as the rest of the country did when the downturn came. So we didn't get the big appreciation because we never fell. Some of these places went down 60, 80%. Yeah,
and we
and
flattened.
Now they're coming back. And we flattened, but we didn't really fall. And so the values are still there, but the cash flow has always been there. That's why Houston's such a great investment market, because the cash flow is phenomenal here.
And so,
I would thoroughly
and how many
agree.
properties are you currently managing?
Just under 400.
400 properties. So,
across the city.
And you're saying the average rentals for your properties are about $1,500 now?
Yeah, it's going up. It used to be about 11, but we're getting close to $1,500 on the average.
That's pretty phenomenal.
It's a big growth, really fast.
It's me.
One of the things I was going to do, I usually do this at the very end of the show, but she actually sent me a quite lengthy...
Let's be Teresa.
Teresa, that is correct. Our Teresa's tips for the day. And everybody know what she does. She actually sends us every week. She sends us a good saying, whether it be a Bible verse, whether it be something that she learned, et cetera, for us to put out there so that we can always remember our roots and, more importantly, remember where we came from, and hopefully give somebody some good inspiration for the day. And so she wrote today's verse is from Romans 8:32. It's, "He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he also, along with him, graciously give us all things? During our time of need, just have faith and know that God loves us and provides for us." Thanks a lot, everybody. Next time, we'll talk to you soon.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.